How's everyone doing this morning? Good. I'm excited to talk about some testing. Everybody's favorite thing, right? So thanks for being here, everyone. We'll go through some quick introductions about ourselves, and then we'll just jump into all the good stuff that we have to share with you today. Most importantly, share your feedback on the session so we can make things better, and we can see what we can do better for you next time, too. A little bit about who we are. I'm Kathy. I'm a principal program manager on the .NET team, and I have my amazing colleague here, Matt. We're going to tag team. We're going to do part one. I'll do, and then Matt will take part two, kind of give you a sense of what's in the product today in Visual Studio 2022. And then Matt's going to take it forward and all the great stuff that we're actively doing, like right now, like with models and evals and things like that. So you can kind of get a sense of where things are going really fast, and hopefully stay with us on that there. So, like I said, we're gonna get a real look at what's in Visual Studio 2022. There's, as you know, it's been out for a while, but there are a lot of goodies in there. Some of them you probably know you may be using. Some of them are from prior features, from versions, but we've made them a lot better in 2022. We'll go through code coverage and kind of what that looks like with some of the new test platform frameworks that we have. And then we'll go through those modern testing tools like Test Explorer, live unit testing, and we'll fix some bugs using Copilot from there too. And then Matt's going to talk about how you can leverage AI, as I said, using Copilot and MEAI eval as well. And we'll do this all through some real-world demos. You've probably seen eShop used a lot in the past few days, maybe. We're going to keep using that because it already had some tests built into it, which was a great starting point, rather than trying to start from scratch there. So how many of you are writing unit tests on a regular basis? Okay, how many of you aspire to write unit tests on a regular basis? Yes, cool. So hopefully, as we go through this, you'll start to see ways that you can start to use some of these tests to have it do the work for you, right? And so as you're aspiring to be a better tester of your apps, like let Visual Studio do that hard work for you. So I want to take a quick moment and talk about the testing platform here. Some of the things that are new is MTP, which you'll see on the top of the .NET Test SDK, which is really at the root. It's like the foundation of all testing in Visual Studio. The modern test platform is the next generation runner that's new in 2022. Helps you run tests more performantly, reliably, and it's also cross-platform along with the SDK itself. You'll see the 3 test frameworks. They haven't changed, but I just want to call them out, right? Some of you may be using one of these. XUnit is pretty popular. NUnit is a more classic choice, and then MS Test is the official one that we build here at Microsoft. And so no matter which one you choose to use, oh, look, I don't know if the colors are up there or not, but anyway, no matter which ones you choose to use, they all work with the .NET SDK. And then below we have the testing tools, right? So again, it's all about choice. What works for you, it works for your teams, or what works for your apps, right? We have Visual Studio, which is a really rich full IDE support. It's got the Test Explorer, live unit testing, Code Lens, and a bunch of really great debugging support for you. So if you want that really rich experience with a really great UI and an end-to-end integration, using Visual Studio is a great choice. You might also be using Visual Studio Code, which is also great. We have the .NET Test Explorer in there, and you may also be using the C# Dev Kit. And if you're using VS Code and not using C# Dev Kit, I highly recommend it because it's a really great experience. And they all rely on .NET Test under the hood there. And they all support in VS Code, all those test frameworks in the middle are supported there as well. And then lastly, we have our CLI and CI tools, which are really great for automation and pipelines that you might have. And they also support all of our code coverage and report generation, which we'll also talk about in a second. And the idea here is that it's really framework agnostic and a really flexible platform. So whatever tooling you're using, whatever framework you're using, it's all ideally going to work. And if you have feedback on any of this and it's not working, please share that with us. So let's jump into what's new for testing in 2022. It's not meant to read the whole thing, but the point is that there's been a lot of great stuff that we've brought into Visual Studio 2022. So I kept all those release numbers. While they don't really matter, I wanted to show you that we're making all this great progress from release to release, right? Everything from revamping live unit testing, which we did early in the release, to built-in code coverage tooling, so you don't have to bring external tools if you don't want to. And then playwright support, and even adding like audio cues for when your tests are done, right? And this hopefully makes testing a little bit easier, faster, and better integrated within your own workflow. And so we made 3 really big performance improvements in Visual Studio. As I mentioned, we revamped live unit testing, but we also wanted to take a look at how it was performing as well. So there's less memory usage and improved background execution as well. And we did that pretty early on in the 2022 release. And then we also improved the static native instrumentation, which helps us avoid runtime injection, as it says there, and has a more efficient code coverage tracking. And then lastly, we wanted to improve the performance for large coverage reports. So like you may have hundreds, you may have thousands of tests that you're running. And we really want that to be fast and performant for you, whether you're running one test or you're trying to run all of them, ideally. So let's talk a little bit about code coverage, right? Just kind of setting the base here so we can kind of build off of it from there, right? So code coverage tells you which parts of your app and your code are being exercised in your tests, right? Did this line run? Did all of the branches, the logical branches execute? And were these methods like even called, right? And so this just matters because uncovered code is really risky, right? Bugs can pop up unexpectedly. Things can happen that you didn't intend to as you were writing your code. And so we want to use code coverage in Visual Studio to give you a good sense of where you might be able to add tests, where you might be overconfident, and what's safe to refactor, and also what might not be safe to refactor as well. And then, so in 2022, we added some improvements to the code coverage experience, and we added some color-coded covering. So green for covered tests, and then red for not covered. And we have some glyphs that are in there to help you get a better sense of what's going on. And this all integrates with the Test Explorer and Code Lens in live unit testing, which I'll show you in just a second. And then before we jump into Visual Studio, the last thing I want to talk about is code coverage in your, in reporting and in your CI/CD pipelines. And so in terms of code coverage reporting, we've got some new improvements in the reporting experience, and I'll show those in just a second too. But we really want to get to like a level of like 70 to 80% of code coverage. That's about like the industry standard. Also, if you're going to measure your code coverage in like your build pipelines in an automation, like GitHub Actions and things like that, they're going to require about the same kind of threshold there. So using some of these tools, you can help kind of find those issues and get better code coverage to get up to that higher percentage there as well. So let's go jump in to Visual Studio. I should take a quick sip. All right. So let's see. So like I mentioned, I have the eShop app here. This is our microservices, cloud-ready e-commerce site here. And it already came with a couple tests here. We can just go take a peek at those so you can see. It's got 73 tests already in here as part of the solution here. I do have one test that's failing, so we'll go and walk through how we're gonna fix that in just a second. But first I wanna walk through that code coverage experience that I was talking about. I already ran code coverage just so I knew what to expect while we were doing the demo. But up in the test menu, I've got analyze code coverage for all tests up here. Now code coverage is available in enterprise, and so is the Code Lens in live unit testing that I'm about to show in just a second. But Test Explorer is available in all of the versions of Visual Studio. So I've already run my code coverage, and you can see I've got the columns, I've got my blocks that are covered, I've got my not covered blocks, I've got covered lines, and partially covered lines. And then over here, I've got the not covered lines. So I get a pretty good view of what's going on here. Now, an interesting thing about the code coverage here is that it's not grouped by how my things look logically in my folders and on disk. Its results here are by DLL and namespace. And so that's because we really want you to see how the assembly, the information is collected at the assembly level, and it reflects how the code is compiled rather than how it looks on disk, as I said. So we'll take a quick look through the toolbar, because I like to show that because it gives a good sense of like what you can do with the feature here. So if I've already run it before and I have some results that I want to import, I can go and do that here. I can export my results to generate those reports that I was talking about, and I will show that in a second. I can merge results if I have two different reports and I want to bring them together. And then here I've got some code coverage coloring. And so I can turn on line coloring, and then I can turn on the margin glyphs. And then here I can remove some things that I just don't want in my view. And then I can go and configure the views of the code coverage as well too. So let's go turn on the, sorry, let's move down a little bit. Let's go turn on the coloring here. And so the line coloring is this coloring you see here in the editor. And then the glyph coloring is here on the left. So like maybe I don't want the line coloring on and I just want to see the glyph coloring. It's actually green and red for you in case some of you can't see the colors there. But we'll go turn back on the line coloring. And so you'll see here that my green coloring is where I do have good code coverage, and the red coloring is where I don't have good code coverage. So I can kind of scroll through this. This is in my basket service, and again, just kind of get a good sense of what's covered. And unfortunately, I do see a lot of red here. So I'm a little concerned, but that's okay, because we're going to go add some more coverage a little bit later on. So let's go and turn this off. And then I've also got some really great pre-built kind of filters here. So if I just wanted to go look at where I have, maybe I want to look at where I have greater than 70% coverage, I can go and add in these things. So I don't need to go and like build these expressions myself. These are kind of the most popular ones and the ones that we think are most helpful to you. So let's see here. Now, I want to show you what one of the reports look like. So here I hit the export button, and it asks me to save my my coverage report. So it's going to save it as an XML file. And actually, before I do that, I wanted to mention that I have it right here. I went and I installed. You need the .NET Global tool, the report generator. Sorry, you can't see that whole thing. So I went and I already installed the global tool, and then I ran my report generator in the developer PowerShell prompt here. And so it went ahead and it generated my report, and I already did this. So we'll just go and look at it. And let's see, here is my report. Again, I use the report generator here, and you can see that I've got 62% line coverage. So that's, it's not bad, but it's not really that good, right? And I can scroll down on the right here. I can see it's kind of lighting up like a Christmas tree over here. I've got some are green and really good, and there's just a lot of red here, especially down here in my in the parts where I'm doing identity in this app. So again, there's a lot of opportunity to go and add some more code coverage. And then in the report, I've got some other fine-grained things that I can do, like grouping. I can change the grouping. I can select different types and metrics that I want to see here. So there's a lot of control in this reporting that's really just right out of the box for you here. All right. So let's go back to the slides real quick. And let's talk about the testing tools here. So we'll start with Test Explorer, and this is the central hub for looking at all your tests. You can do things like filtering and grouping and really get them, get the view to look like how you want it to look. So whatever you happen to be working on. Again, it supports all three of these test frameworks that I talked about. And then the second one is CodeLens. Now, CodeLens, there's different, we'll call them lenses in CodeLens. Some of them are available in Professional, but the testing one is only available in Enterprise. And this is that heads-up display that you see right above your method names. And this one gives you the inline ability to run all your tests that happen to be associated with that method, or you can just run or debug a specific one. And we'll see that in a second too. And then live unit testing is automatically running in the background. The window looks very similar to Test Explorer, but it's kind of giving you that real-time feedback along with the code coverage feature. So you can see what's working and what's not working as you type or as you add things or make changes. And they're all built on this new modern test platform runner as well. So let's go jump back in to Visual Studio and we'll head into Test Explorer here. And sorry, just make the window a little bigger. And you'll see here that I have that test that's failing here. So what we want to do is we want to go and fix that test. I've got a bunch of play buttons here at the top that do various things from running only my failed tests to running all my tests or a specific test, as I mentioned. I've got a good sense I have 73 tests, 72 are passing and one's failing. I've got, I can make a playlist if I only want to just kind of like music, if I only want to run certain tests while I'm doing something. I can turn on live unit testing to get to the window from here. I've got a bunch of group by and collapsing things here. And then I can go right to my settings here too. And right here with this sound notification is the other thing I mentioned, where if you are one of those people that wants to go back to your test as soon as they finish running, you can pick a sound to go and do that. So the one thing I do also want to call out, let me go to my tests here. I'm here in my basket service test. And as I was building this demo, these tests were new to me, right? So let me zoom on just a teeny bit here. I went ahead and right here, these descriptions that are here, I went ahead and asked Copilot earlier when I was building this demo to go and write descriptions for all of the tests and then add them in the format of console.writeline in the first line. So Copilot went and added all of these descriptions for me so I could show you this feature, which I thought was pretty awesome. So if I go to, which one is this? For Note User, you'll see down here in this new, sorry, let me make it a little bigger for y'all. There we go. Right here in this standard output window, it says, sorry, scrolling. It says this test verifies that the .get basket method returns an empty basket response when there is no authenticated user in the request context. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to use Copilot to show off a new feature here. But it also helped me understand what these tests were doing as I was building out this demo here. So again, that's another new feature that we have here as well. Now, I can also, in this window, I can run that test or I can debug that test. For the failing test is also pretty cool, is I can go in here and I can use Copilot to help me explain this failure here. And I can also use it to help me debug the test here. And I'm not going to use that right now. I'm going to kind of go down the traditional path of debugging something. And then we're going to use live unit testing to go and debug that same thing here. So let's go and, excuse me. Let's go and start up the app here. And we'll start debugging and kind of see what's going on. All right. All right, so my eShop app is coming up. It's just taking a second. Let's go in here. It always takes longer when you're demoing things. Taking a little longer than I expected here. Okay. It's taking quite a bit longer here. Let's just see what's going on here. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure it was working, I swear. Anyway, we're just gonna we're just gonna come in here and we're just gonna pretend like it started, and we were able to use the watch window to see where, like we normally do, we were gonna see that we've got an exception thrown, and that we saw where we wanted to go and fix this bug. So actually, before I fix it, I realized that I passed over the code lens here. So I'm gonna go real quick and show the code lens, which you'll see right above with the 6 references there. Those are the code lenses up there, and the second one is the test one. And so like I said, I've got this heads up display where I can see how my tests are doing for that particular method. And this get basket is failing. And so, you know, I can click on just this one, and I can run or debug this one right from within my test classes, so I don't even have to leave that one there. So let's pretend that we did that debugging and we actually know where our bug is. And it's like, oh, well, look, looks like I reversed my logic here, right? And so I could go and fix that one here, but instead of fixing it real quick, I want to go turn on live unit testing. So let's go turn on live unit testing. The window looks super similar to the Test Explorer window. And it's going to go, hopefully it already initialized some of these things in that build that it was doing here. So we'll give that a second. And we're going to show how we're going to fix the bug using live unit testing, and it's just going to light up from there. Cool. So let's go back. Looks like it finished initializing it. Obviously, I still have that one failing test, but now I've got these glyphs that are over here in the margin over here. And so it brings that power of code coverage with live unit testing together. So I can see that, oh, this is covered by one test, but it's actually a failing test, right? And then if I scroll up a little, I can see a check mark. This one is covered by 2 tests, and it's also passing. And then where I see these blue dashes here, this is covered by no tests, and there's nothing to pass or fail. So I love how these 2 things work really well together. So let's go back to that spot where that bug was here. And as soon as I fix it, watch in the live unit testing window, it's going to go and update it, and it immediately turns green there. So I can also do this while I'm debugging, which is super cool. It acts a lot like hot reload in that aspect of it. And so you know, nobody wants to have to stop debugging to go fix your bug and then recompile. And so live unit testing just does all this for you. And so it really allows you to stay in the flow here. So let's see. So the last thing I want to do is I want to use Copilot to go help me add some more unit tests. We saw that my code coverage was only at 62%, and I want to try to make it a little bit better. So let's go and do that. And I'm going to go to the Copilot window, and down here I'm going to use the new agent mode. So I changed it from ask to agent, and then I'm going to use the new Claude 4 model as well too, since I've had pretty good luck using that to help me. Hold on, let's see. Make sure that I've got I'm just going to start a new window just to be sure. And so I'm going to ask Copilot to add some unit tests for the update and for updating and deleting the basket. All right, so Copilot's gonna go off. It's gonna go look at my current tests here. It's actually pretty cool. It goes right to the basket service because I was pretty specific there. And it's gonna go get a bunch of context about my project, about my tests there. And then let's scroll down so we can see how this is going. Hopefully the lights stay on for us. And the cool thing is, so, you know, it's cool to watch Copilot kind of do its thing, but also like keep your eye on the live unit testing over here on the left, because as it's adding these tests, they're just going to light up and they're going to turn green in the live unit testing window. And so, yeah, so Copilot has all of the information that it needs. And I think now it's going to start to add some of those tests there. Yeah, have all the information I need. Let me add those new unit tests. It's going. can do it. I feel like it's very brave. You never know what you're gonna get, you know. And I will say while we're waiting for this, like, of course, you know, I think it'll add about like 12 or 13. It typically adds new tests. Now, you're gonna want to go and validate those yourself, right? You trust but verify, right? Like, go take a look at the tests that it adds. Don't sort of blindly accept them. But one thing we are gonna go do after this is we're gonna go rerun code coverage to see how we did, right? I've had different results, right, each time, and so use that as a signal and how you can get your coverage to be better, and don't just like blindly accept that there. So look here on the live unit testing. Oh, changed my window for me. Yeah, we went up from, what were we, 75-ish to 82, and so it added a bunch of update methods here, update tests and delete basket tests as well. And then if I go into it's out here. If I go up here, if I go back to my test file, I can see it's highlighted in all this green. So it shows me all the good stuff that it added. You can also look here in the margin to see that it added all these tests. And then over here in the Copilot window, I can choose to keep the tests or undo them. So let's just go real quick and we will, so this is in my basket API, right? So I had, just kind of remember these numbers. I had 50 covered code blocks and 35 covered lines. So let's go and run. We'll try to remember 50 and 35. Let's go and run code coverage again. So it's gonna go do another build. And hopefully it's got some of that good stuff in the cache already. And we're hoping to get those numbers a little bit higher. But again, we wanna go look at the overall percentage of code coverage after this, so too. And you can see it's working down here in the green progress bar there. It's almost done. All right, let's see how we did here. Yeah, so this was our basket API. We were at, what did I say, 50 and 35. We had 50 covered blocks and 35 covered lines. So we did pretty well. Again, we want to go and verify this. And so we might go run that code coverage report again and get a better sense if we increase the percentage or not. But I'm gonna stop right here because Matt has a lot of goodies to show you for the second half.
All right, so what we're going to talk about real quickly then for the rest of the talk is I'm going to pick up with what Kathy was talking about with GitHub Copilot. So really just kind of some prompt-based generation. Works really good with modern C#. I am playing around with doing it with .NET Framework stuff. How many people are still using .NET Framework? Yeah, me too. And actually on Friday, I'm doing a workshop of moving .NET Framework to modern .NET and then refactoring that into for cloud ready. So, I mean, that's still a big deal. And also we'll get into MEAI evaluations. And so MEAI stands for Microsoft.extensions.ai.eval. So very, we are bad at naming, but that is what it stands for. And evaluation, so we can actually evaluate the AI responses coming back from the model. Cool. So Copilot, Kathy showed us, how do we get Copilot to do testing? You just ask it. And when I use Copilot, for some reason, I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm super duper polite to it. I always say, can we do this? We need to do this. And, at the end, I'll say, well, if you feel like it, you can do it. It's up to you. So, and there's something else. There's custom instructions that I want to show you all too. And so custom instructions is where you get to send Copilot extra instructions to tailor what you want the AI responses to do. So normally, we're just you get the whole world. You're saying, all right, Copilot, take everything you know and bring it back. Copilot and the AI is really good at everything out there. And everything out there kind of leans towards JavaScript. or Python, right? There's not a whole lot of .NET that it's been trained on. It's just the way things are. It's getting better and better as the way it goes, but there's just a whole more JavaScript out there than before. So before we get to that awesome slide, let's show a little bit of Copilot and the custom instructions. So this is making sure that this is, yeah. So on my way here, on the bus, and then as I was grabbing a coffee, I vibed up this application. Hopefully it'll start up for us. And all right, very good. Here we go. It's a .NET Aspire app. Make that a little bit bigger. And it's just a recipe manager. So really cool. Actually, I did this all 100% AI. Our jobs are going to change in the future. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, I need you to come up with an instruction set that can be given to AI to create a recipe manager app. And then we kind of went through it over and over again till I got exactly what I wanted, back and forth. And then I fed that into some custom instructions, which I'll show you in just a second. This is what came up. So just quick recipes. I can view it. We can edit and, you know, what you would expect. And I promise this will not turn into a 100% Copilot talk. But, and I can see, like, cancel doesn't work. So yeah, we have some work to do. I didn't ask polite enough. So here we go. So maybe that's because I said we, and that's the part of the thought I would do. All right, so anyways, what we want to do though, ultimately, is create some unit tests based off of this. And the good part is because I vibe coded it, I have no idea what it's doing. I have not looked at this code yet. So I see I have a recipe service, and I have an in-memory service for data, get recipes, get all recipes async. So it should be relatively simple for me to vibe this up. What I want to do though is I want to give it some custom instructions to tell it, we're doing some .NET, we're doing some testing, coding. Let's funnel down so we can do that. And so what I have, instead of me trying to figure it out, what we have just did, we being my team, and then open it up to the community, is we put out this website called Awesome Copilot, or a repo, and it's open to the community. And so people can contribute custom instructions, reusable prompts, and custom chat modes. And right now, Visual Studio is on the custom instructions, but reusable prompts and chat modes are coming. And what we can do here then is let's just look at ASP.NET REST API development. You can use these, and then every time you make a request over to Copilot, it puts all these instructions in for you. So it's like giving out best practices to Copilot every single time, right? So it's just kind of giving you back and forth. So that's cool, right? So you're tailoring it and you're telling it extra information of where to go. So let's see if we can find Control F, TDD. So there is, these are probably chat modes. Let's do test. And go way up. That's VI, Playwright, PowerShell. I'm just looking for something that's been out here so I don't have to think of it myself. I am 100% reliant on AI at this point. I know what I can do. I'm going to go down to there is, I think it's expert.net. Insights, design patterns, solid testing. Okay. So I'm going to take this, Control A, Control C it. So this is actually a custom chat mode. But what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to put it into actually VS Code. And I'm going to say, configure modes, create a new one. we'll put it into, how about their user data folder, .NET expert, give it a name. And then, does it have that? Yep. And then, assuming it picked it up, if I go down to here, I should see .NET Expert. And so now I can start chatting with .NET Expert. So looking at the code, can you pretty please figure out what my unit tests should be? Only tell me, do not change any code. I'll do that for you. Thank you. All right. And so because I've changed it from, it's going to use Claude Sonnet, but I moved it all the way down. I scoped it down to being just being a .NET expert, so to speak. And so I gave it a personality. You can kind of think of that way. We're not supposed to talk about AI like giving it personalities, but that's kind of sort of what we did. And so it's going to go out, it's going to think through it, and so on. And if I had this over on agent mode, it could actually go out and do what we were thinking of. Yeah, so Visual Studio does not have these chat modes yet. VS Code is just a little bit ahead as far as implementing some of the Copilot stuff, but that is what happens. Things will align. So there we go. I honestly don't know what BUnit is. So yeah, maybe it's not right. It's messing with me. But here we go. Oh, Blazor component testing. Okay. I won't bother if that's a thing. So we're down at .NET Expert as opposed to like Agent Expert or Edit. Now, the custom instructions that I wanted to bring up before, what I could do is, or what I did do, now these get sent along every single time, and I could add custom instructions telling it that it's a great testing agent and all of my testing, like if my company had testing protocols and best practices, I can give it to Copilot and have it always follow those best practices. And that comes into these copilot-instructions.md. And so right here, I put in what ChatGPT came out for me for the vibe coding things up. And then below it, I have best practices for Blazor code and style structure. So I also have that I'm sending along on every single request. So I'm kind of, again, narrowing it down. And Visual Studio does have that. And so the way you do it is in your in the .github folder, which shows up on the overall top level of where you put it, or you put your solution. There's a Copilot-instructions, which you can put everything in. And then when I go here, because my custom instructions did have a little bit about testing in it, I will just say, can you tell me a bit about unit testing? Do not make any changes quite yet. And here's the cool part again. Use the Microsoft Docs for some reference as well. So Microsoft Docs has a MCP server, right? And you all probably heard way too much about MCP already, but essentially you can kind of think of MCP as giving Copilot or any AI client the ability to make REST or HTTP calls to another AI. So that's essentially what it is. It's more than that, but it's a communication mechanism. It's not REST, but think of it that way. It's a communication mechanism. And so what we have here, if I click the 2 wrenches, I can see on my Microsoft.docs.mcp where it's allowing that fetch and search. And you set that up through a mcp.json. And like all your servers are going to tell you how to, what it wants to have. And you put that into on your solution level, the .mcp.json file. And then Visual Studio picks that up, and then you can ask it about the unit testing. Do not make any changes quite yet. Let's see if it listens to it. And it goes, oh, and the 2 references, it is making a reference to instructions.md. And then now is calling out to Microsoft Docs down here as well to get best practices. So that's cool. So now you're just kind of giving it all this context to do things with. So then it's telling me why unit testing is great and so on. So this is how you can kind of take what Kathy showed us and like narrow it down even further to make it just, an expert in unit testing. And then you can swap it out. If you're doing code generation for databases and you want to make it an entity framework expert, do it that way. You can have more than one instructions file as well, so it knows which one to pick up and so on. But calling out to the Microsoft Docs, super awesome. And ideally what you do though, every time you say use Microsoft Docs, that way it knows to go get it. It's just a nice way to pull it up. All right, that is the Copilot portion of this talk. Maybe. I do like talking about Copilot a whole lot, but let's talk about evaluating the AI responses or testing, right? And so why would you ever want to test AI? And so like how many R's are in strawberry? And that was kind of like a thing from even last summer is even like the thinking models or the reasoning models would come back and say like there's 10 or there's 15 R's in strawberry, right? And so you have to kind of think, test that to make sure whatever you're getting back even is right. Because AIs, the LLMs are non-deterministic. You can ask it the same question twice and it's going to give you 2 different answers. And so you want to make sure that there's a whole bunch of different things. And we'll get into the different things that you want to test. And that's where the evaluation library comes in. And so the evaluation library does a bunch of different things. It has a useful set of evaluators and you can create your own. The ones that come in the box are ones I find most useful are the top 4. Actually, they're all pretty useful. Relevance, truth, and completeness. Relevance is whether the answer comes back is actually relevant to what you asked it. Now, the way these things work, I'll wait to the next slide. But truth being what you asked, what it said back is true or not. Did you ask it, how many R's are in strawberry and told you 15? 15 R's? Well, that's relevant. It told you how many R's, but it's not necessarily true, right? So it's going to give you a score, whether that's true, true or not, or relevant. And then complete. Did it give you a whole answer? How many R's are in strawberry? There are, that's not necessarily complete. And then there's coherence. Does it make sense? Right? And so all these kind of come back and work together. Groundedness is where you supply the perfect answer and it goes against that and registers that. So, and then fluency, whether it, exactly how I'm not speaking right now, how fluent the whole answer flows to see if it makes sense back to the person. And then really kind of most importantly is responsible AI. There's a whole bunch of different evaluators that go against, making sure that your AI doesn't turn into evil, right? And so the way AI works is that it has this context window, and you can kind of steer it to, responding. Like you can start in the news lately, there's been these, like AIs have been kind of steering people to, dark places, and you want to make sure you test against that, right? And so just by, giving it this history and trying to get it to move over, you want to make sure you don't do that. And that's where these responsible AI evaluators help you. And then there's math, these coming soon, where you have a lot of reasoning models. And these reasoning models are like the ones that you use in code generation. And so you want to make sure these things are pretty advanced. So you want to know that, 5 plus 2 is 7. So stuff like that. All right. So the infrastructure, the way these things work, one is that you have to make a call to an LLM to get an answer back, right? And that can be expensive, right? You're going to be sending some tokens over. So you can actually cache some of the responses, and so you don't have to actually run your token count up. We can report off of it, which is cool. So the reporting is going to get you two things. It's going to get you, one, you can get a nice looking HTML report. Two, you can get some JSON to put into your ADO or your GitHub Actions pipelines, right? And so you can have those come up and have a nice, feel good that things are actually working like you feel you do. You can see green, yellow, or red come out. Put everything into a hard disk on your machine if you're running that way, or Azure storage on like Azure Data Lake, so you can kind of have a nice history of how things worked. And Azure DevOps reporting and so on. So how do these things work? They're OSS, which is great. What's cool about the OSS is that you can go in and see the prompts that these evaluators are using to evaluate the prompts that you use. It's kind of meta on how these things work, but you can kind of go in and see it. These you can use inside unit testing, which is why you're all here. We can put them into unit tests, but you can also pop them into your regular applications and use them at runtime too to evaluate how things are going. And works with, pretty much any of the LLM providers that you can imagine going on. And here at Microsoft, people are using it, including Xbox, Windows, Copilot for Azure even is using it as well. So that's cool. It is being used in production now. All right, here's how it works. Square box with the dashes. That is our everyday occurrence, right? Your app has some code, makes a request over to the LLM, and the LLM responds, right? How many R's are in strawberry? 25, right? And so it comes back. That runs against the evaluation. So you're going to ask it, is this relevant or is this, complete? Again, against an LLM, because the MEAI eval has its own prompts that it runs based on the evaluator. The LLM that it runs against can be the same one that you normally run your prompts against, or it can be a different one, right? So probably should be, if you're using OpenAI's, it should be probably OpenAI 4.0 or 4.1. So there's recommendations. They're still developing best practices with their data scientists. This stuff is pretty new. So right now it's like 4.0 or 4.1. And then comes back, you could put everything into a response cache if you want for that first set of arrows on the very top. Data comes back, the down arrow, put it into a report store so you can have, what happened and kind of see if you are going up or down as you tune your models. And then .NET AI eval, a .NET tool, and generate some reports so you can show your boss that AI is worth it. All right. So this is how everything works together. There's 6 different, essentially, NuGet packages. Personally, I just kind of download them all and put them in and hope things work. But the ones that you want are 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6 are kind of the reporting ones, essentially. So whether you're using Azure or popping things out to the console. And I forgot the dot between evaluation and console. So that's where we're at. So let's actually, I'd spent more time talking than I thought I would. So let's actually see some code. All right, we will close the recipe manager. And then open up a new project called AI Solutions. All right, so I have 2 different things in here. One is just a basic UI test, or a unit test, I'm sorry. And, oops. How are we doing on, can y'all see? Big enough? Yeah, cool. I evaluated that as a positive. Very good. All right, so this is how it works. They have what's called a chat configuration. This is coming from the evaluation framework. You can think of chat configuration as just your iChat interface on MEAI. So MEAI is .NET's way, it's our way of doing AI, essentially. It's the library that makes, using multiple models easy. So this wraps that up. So it's cool. This is built upon MEAI. And then what this is, list chat message, is the messages coming back and forth. And so what we're doing here, I'll make it just a little bit wider, is to go back and forth. Since this is a unit test, I'm hard coding stuff in. And for the system, I'm just asking it or telling it, setting the context of what this thing's going to do. And it's going to answer questions about astronomy. And the user, the first question that it's going to ask is how far Venus is from Earth at its closest and furthest points. All right, so it's not necessarily a super duper easy question, but it's not super duper hard either. All right, and so this is an MS build or an MS unit test. And so we have a class initialized. We go through. I'm adding my secrets to talk to AI. And then I am just initializing my overall. I want a temperature as 0. I'm telling it it's going to come back as text and so on. So I'm just initializing overall how things are going to talk. And then finally, I'm asking it to talk. Then in my test method, this is where things become fun. I'm adding a coherence evaluator. And then I will stop doing that and start circling. All I'm doing is right here, evaluating the response. So I have my messages, which are what's going back and forth. I have my response. And then the chat configuration is the configuration of the evaluator. So here I'm just using my same model, but it could be a totally different model that we have tuned up to evaluate. And I'm just saying, you know what? Go out and evaluate async, right? We don't have to do anything like more than that. So it's just kind of like one method. And you notice that this doesn't have anything to do with unit testing. So it's cool, right? We can actually just kind of go out and use it anywhere, so to speak. And then the next thing that we're doing is as far as, I can't see where my mouse is, so you're going to get stuff that's in the middle of nowhere, is assertion scope. So this comes from Awesome Assertions, which is a unit testing framework. And then you will have down here these 2 lines, which is getting a numeric message from the coherence, interpretation, reasoning. Wow. All right. Which is this, or right there. And so this is coming back from the evaluation result and just saying, this is what I got back, the interpretation, and this is why that interpretation is what it is. All right. And then what I can do then is say whether it's good or exceptional, getting the ratings. And then this right here is just now start doing my unit testing. Interpretation rating should be one of good or exceptional because of the reason. All right. So that's awesome assertions working for us. It's a fluent framework. And then rest of the unit testing. And so down here, I can chain them together. That's what I wanted to show here. I can do a coherence evaluator, and I also can do a relevance evaluator. And it's the same deal, right? Instead of just calling the coherence evaluator .evaluate async, I'm doing a new composite evaluator, passing the evaluators in, evaluate async. And I could do a whole bunch at one time had I wanted to. And again, check configuration with it, right? So sending the messages that you and the model talk about, sending it in with the evaluation stuff. And so there you go. I'll run this. Do I have it open? No. View. Test Explorer. Let's make that big. All right, run it. How about we run them all? And hopefully they all will pop in a green. And they do. So cool. So what I want to do real quick, I'll run them again. And I'm going to set a breakpoint up here on that guy. Simple evaluations, test coherence. And I'm going to debug it. So what I want to show real quick here, oh my goodness, is that if I do interpretation.reason, I get but I get an interpretation and it's didn't fail, the rating's good, but didn't give me a reason because it actually came back good. Cool. So what I want to do is get that stuff somewhere, and that's where the reporting comes in. And the reporting, oops, it really looks like the same thing, except all we're doing is setting up a different reporting evaluation. Is I'm saying, all right, I'm going to save the disk, and just kind of saying, all right, I'm saving it to test reporter. I'm going to get my evaluators, which in this case is going to be coherence and relevance again. And then I'm setting up the check configuration. Same thing we saw before, real kind of straightforward, which is nice. I can apply tags to it. Execution name just being, in this case, the date and time when it ran. And then when I say coherence to report, running a scenario, again, this is awesome assertions, but this right here is what we're doing. So I'm just saying, how far is the moon from the Earth? And then evaluate. Cool. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. The scenario run is doing the reporting configuration to run it and write it to disk. We could write it to Azure as well, had we want to. And we can forget that to do because I did do that. And then validated is where we're doing our greens or reds for the test runner. But had we run it, which we just did, I can go to C:/test reports, and we get this. So we get cache, we get results. So that's the date, tells me where we ran it, and 1.json. And if I open it, of course I trust it. It tells me all this stuff about the run, which is cool because if I open the report.html that we have, now I can see some greens on what happened. And let me make it larger so y'all can see it too, is like for coherence. It is coherent because it's logically organizes. This is for something different, and we'll show in just a sec. The practical emergency steps with clear connections and smooth transitions, and it tells me the chain of thought that it went through as well. So cool. Let me now delete all these. Yeah, let me then close this. Try again. Let me just cancel. We'll try it again later. And so we don't have to do this just in unit testing. What we can do then is run it. This is where I find it actually really interesting, is we can actually run it in a real live application. And so I have something set up that's kind of sort of like eShop Lite. And so this is a Aspire app that needs Docker running. It needs Docker running. Come on. There we go. We will start it again. All right, so real quickly, what this does, this is actually comes from our AI template. So essentially, it's really just a quick file new AI application through Visual Studio, and it will show us failed start for some reason. Why do we get a failed start? Let's look at the how about this? Hosting ID response. Something's not implemented. One more time. You know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to talk through this all while all right, we'll see if it figures it out. But anyways, what I wanted to show is down here in the web app. And if I go into the services, product service, actually, the components, pages, chat.razor, which actually gets to products. Add user message async when the user would be talking to it. I'm starting to create a scenario right here. I'm starting the evaluation up. So I'm saying, you know what, let's create a reporting scenario. And then coming down here, this is just the normal streaming that would come back. So it's asking about products. Like, so it has a backpack in there. So I can say, you know, what is about the backpack that makes it good? And so it reads a PDF and would tell me that. And then I can evaluate it as well. So the ideal would be, let's see if I can bring my stuff back. Not redo, delete, undo, delete, not there. but it starts writing during runtime, right? And so I can now start checking out what things are and how things would be working. And so let's see, can Copilot help me? See, you're having trouble. Yes. Command executed, didn't work. All right, that's not going to help me. Alrighty, I'm gonna not bore you by trying to figure it out. But yeah, so that's cool. So it has everything that comes back, and then I can go ahead and actually what I can do is show you again the HTML because I know that will pop up. And so this cache here is if I would run it multiple times, and I didn't want to have my asking the prompts to hit the LLM, it would pull it from the cache directory instead. But when I bring up this report, and so if I bring it back to relevance, and so here I'm asking a question, and I can actually, I think, see the question right here. System prompt, you are an assistant who answers questions about information you retrieve. Always include a citation. And so I ask, what should I do in an emergency? And it tells me you should do this. Make sure you have your contact information. Use communication methods such as whistles and so on, and brings back some citations. And so this now tells me, the evaluation tells me why this is relevant. So that's kind of cool. You can see this all from the report, and this is what's all coming back from the evaluations. And so for fluency, it tells me, you know what, it's clear, it's coherent, it's well structured, and so on. And it's also coherent as well. It's more relevant than it is the other two, and it rates it between 1 and 5. So, which is neat. Alrighty. And I'll have to figure that out. And so we will have the resources available. I know VS Live is going to distribute all the decks to everybody. So you'll be able to go through and click on all these resources. I will put the a working edition of the evaluators up. The evaluators will also run off of GitHub Models, which is a free AI model that you can use. It has limited token usage, but you can at least run it to get a sense of how things work. So I'll have instructions and README on how to use that as well. And yeah, Kathy, if you didn't have anything else to add, feel free to contact us over LinkedIn should you have any questions on this at all. Cool. All right. Thank you very much.